Joe Milton, the third junior, senior, Esquire, has been put in a box or on a tier, and Tennessee's quarterback is not really considered elite, but also considered pretty good. So, thoughts on the respect that Joe Milton III gets from a recent tier ranking by ESPN.com, and it will be 4 downs. But first of all, if you can set this up, he's a tier 3 quarterback. How is ESPN defining this before we get to 4 downs, Caleb Calhoun?
So tier 3 is not bad, but there's a tier 1A, a tier 1B, a tier 2, and a tier 3. And through those tiers, we're talking about maybe the top 16 to 20 quarterbacks. Tier 3 is quarterbacks who you may have questions about, but you have no questions about the system they're in. So you shouldn't question that they're probably going to be pretty good. And that's Joe Milton right now, which makes sense because we know about Josh Heupel's system. Just for the record, other quarterbacks in that system right now is Cade Klubnik for Clemson, Kyle McCord for Ohio State. Kind of agree with both of those because of Garrett Riley and Ryan Day in the spread that Ohio State runs. The ones I disagree with in this tier 3 are Alabama. I think they're just saying Alabama's system produces quarterbacks. No, they've just had great quarterbacks in the past few years. And the same with Georgia. They're saying Georgia with Carson Beck and Penn State with Drew Allar. I disagree with those 3.
All right, let's get rolling. 4 downs. It's brought to you by our friend Andy Mason, AndyMasonRealEstate.com.
4 downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
downs. A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
All right, it's brought to you by AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Let's take a look at Joe Milton III, Esquire, second, junior, senior. Cade Klubnik is one of the players that is in that same tier, that tier 3 at Clemson. So we saw him firsthand. Would you take Cade Klubnik over Milton in an even trade right now with Clemson? That'll be first down, brought to you by AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Andy Mason has the best service and the best prices in Knoxville. If you're buying a home, it's Andy Mason. It's that simple. AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Don't miss out on thousands with another realtor, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Reach out to him. Tell him Off the Hook Sports sent you. So, first down. Would you take Cade Klubnik over Joe Milton right now? What say you?
Did anybody watch what Cade Klubnik did to what we all agree was a very mediocre Tennessee pass defense last year? Wasn't good. No, I know we don't put too much stock in bowl games. I put stock in it if you play horribly, though, as a quarterback. And so, no, I'm taking Joe Milton over Cade Klubnik right now.
Okay, I don't take a lot of stock in bowl games, and I particularly don't take a lot of stock in this bowl game. But I would take Cade Klubnik for a couple of reasons. I think he's a more natural runner. Let me put 3 reasons. I think he's a more natural runner. I think that the way the game plan by Clemson was like they had zero faith in him. They're going for it on 4th downs. They're being overly aggressive. It's just like, play the game, man. Y'all have a talented roster. Just play the game. And then the third, I would say just eligibility. And eligibility would be the difference. He has 3 years where you would have 1.
Isn't that an overrated take nowadays, though, with the transfer portal? Like, is eligibility really a thing that matters anymore?
Travis says, there it is, ridiculous take. I'm not hating on Joe Milton, but if you had 3 years, okay, if you had to choose between 1 year of Joe Milton right now or 3 years of Nico, you would take 3 years of Nico. So I
would take 1 year of Nico because I think Nico's just that good over 1 year of Joe Milton.
You would take 1. Okay.
1 year of Nico at where I think he's going to be, not Nico this year. But 1 year of Nico, like of where I think he's going to develop, Nico. So that's not even a fair comparison. But we always talk about I want the 3 year guy, not the 1 year guy. Well, guess what? Auburn got Cam Newton for 1 year. What happened? Syracuse had Carmelo Anthony for 1 year. What happened? Kentucky had Anthony Davis for 1 year. What happened?
Okay, but who is the high? There is a reason that Joe Milton, and I don't hate him. After what I heard in spring practice, he's going to be the starter the whole year. I'm not the Joe Milton hater anymore that you guys portray me as. But I will say this. There's a reason that he's just started 7 games in his career, and he's a senior, and he had to transfer, and then he got benched by Hendon Hooker. I know partly due to injury. There's a reason. So Cade Klubnik has this tremendous upside that we haven't really seen. Clemson's coaches really stumbled all over themselves in that game plan. It's not, I mean, don't tell me it's just out of left field for me to say, yes, I would take Cade Klubnik.
No, I think what's out of left field is when you say because it's 3 years versus 1, because what I don't believe in, and I say this with the NFL and I say it with college, the obsession with upside over proven derails so many teams. I mean, there's this whole, I think college football with the transfer portal is more win now than ever before. It is win right now because you have more resources to win right now than ever before. College football is almost college basketball now, Dave. A new head coach can turn a team around overnight, which used to not be the thing. And I think that it's the same way with, you didn't see the New York Jets say, well, we could have Zach Wilson for 20 years versus Aaron Rodgers for 2. No, they're like, we'll take Aaron Rodgers for 2 years. Okay. You didn't see John Elway go, I could have Tim Tebow for 15 years or Peyton Manning for 4. You take Peyton Manning for 4 years over Tim Tebow for 15. And so there's this win now thing. I mean, there's this upside idea that I think is just, it's been an annoying thing in sports for as long as I can remember, when your best success usually comes in a 5 or 6 year window. One, if you're talking about a coach or a pro player, and you only need 1 year for a college player.
Okay. Second down, who would you take over Joe Milton? And let's just talk 1 year. Let's take the eligibility thing out of it. I'm getting Dan and Mr. Jones and everybody that could possibly rip me. Rebecca's even ripping me, and I think she likes me. But everybody's ripping me. So who would you take? I think, we're objective. We're not just going to worship at the feet of Joe Milton because Josh Heupel says so. So what SEC quarterbacks would you take over Joe Milton for 1 year?
What, SEC quarterbacks, not overall quarterbacks?
Well, that's third down. Let's take it one down at a time.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I did not see third. I apologize. My apologies. SEC
That's
quarterbacks.
Because, but I forgot to email you the rundown. Okay, go ahead.
I would probably take this year, y'all are going to call me the LSU lover, but Jaden Daniels over Joe Milton, just because Jaden Daniels playing for Brian Kelly's offense. I have a lot of faith in him. I think he was underrated in this tiers. He's not even in the top 3 tiers. I railed against KJ Jefferson last year when people put him ahead of Hendon Hooker, and I said that was the stupidest thing. I'd probably take KJ Jefferson over Joe Milton, though.
Wow. So you're talking about a guy that's largely unproven, that had accuracy issues, and you got him as the number 3 quarterback in the SEC.
The SEC has a lot of unproven quarterbacks this year. There's a lot of overturn. I mean,
that happens every year. I can remember, like every couple of years, it seems like there are 15 quarterbacks at SEC Media Days, and the next year that's going to be a down year in quarterbacks.
Yes.
And it happened this year. There was Hooker, Bryce Young, I can't remember all.
Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, maybe.
Yeah. So it was like I was looking around thinking, well, next year's quarterback class is going to be very bad. Not saying those guys are bad, but okay. Third down, what quarterbacks in the nation are a lock that you would take over Joe Milton III? Now, I don't expect you to get every single one, but I would think it starts with Caleb Williams, right? At Southern California, it's hard to argue the Heisman Trophy winner wouldn't be an upgrade.
It's hard to argue Caleb Williams. I agree. I would take Caleb Williams. And then I would also take Drake May, who I think is going to be drafted behind Caleb Williams in 2024, but is a better draft prospect. Drake May is the best quarterback in this draft class. No questions asked.
I don't think he goes behind Caleb Williams.
You don't think he does?
I think he's number 1. I've heard I've heard two words from a scout that got me perked up, and it was the first word was John, the second word was Elway.
And that's the gold standard of number one draft picks, isn't he? Isn't John Elway like the gold standard of, like, even beyond Peyton Manning? There were just, because there were questions about Peyton. You knew John Elway was going to be a success in the NFL, right?
Yeah, I mean, just he had everything.
It was LeBron James when he was drafted number one, I'm guessing.
Yes, or Victor Wembanyama. The kid that the Spurs are going to get. Yeah, he was that type of freak athlete. And no knock against Peyton, but Peyton had the Ryan Leaf thing. So yeah, I think Drake May is that guy, and you would probably take him. I mean, I think Drake May's really, really special, like a generational talent. We'll see. I mean, he's got to survive another year at North Carolina. I got mad respect for the kid for sticking. I mean, I heard that there was like offers of $5 million for 1 year, which was pretty insane. So we're at fourth down. So fourth down, what is the most important game for Joe Milton III?
Florida. He's going to get by Virginia, and he's going to get by, who's their second game? I'm already forgetting it.
It's awful.
Yeah, somebody that they shouldn't be playing. Florida is the game where we judge Joe Milton, because we both think Florida's floundering, but that doesn't mean that they're a fall out of bed win for Tennessee. You're going to Florida. They haven't beaten Florida in the Swamp in 20 years. And, you know, without Casey Clausen, they haven't beaten Florida in the Swamp since 1971. So that's by no means a given. They should beat Florida, but we've seen so many crazy things. But if Florida's the game where you judge Joe Milton.
Yeah, Travis brings up a good point. So I'm all on board with Drake May, but he's the opposite of Tennessee's system. That is true. So kind of like I'm trying to think of a good comparison. You would take we talked about how Nico was the perfect fit for Tennessee system, whereas Arch Manning is a good fit for any system. So it's not a slight in Nico whatsoever, but I see what you're saying there, Travis. Just absolutely no way keeping Milton. Second down, we are good this year. Milton has 3 years in the system. Anyone else would be green, fair. Rebecca says Florida sets the tone. I think there's a lot of truth to that. But by the same token, if anything happened in the Virginia game, I don't think it's going to be close. I haven't seen an early spread for that. But if you come out and there are errant passes, 6-7 errant passes, and you just beat Virginia by 3 touchdowns instead of 4 or 5, or you just beat them by 2 touchdowns, that could be a defining game too that makes people scratch their head and wonder, because you're not going to learn anything from Austin Peay. So I'll say straight out of the chute, it's Virginia. Come out there and dominate and be really good. You've got the whole offseason to prepare. So I'll say that would set the tone of the season, which is an easy out for me to say the season opener sets the tone. But with a new quarterback, I think there's something to that. I think the players will see more out of Joe Milton being the guy throughout August and into the Virginia game than even we'll see, Caleb. And if they have half the belief in Milton they had in Hendon Hooker, Tennessee's good to go for the rest of the year. They will be a 10-win team.
Here's the thing. What you just said is going to happen versus Virginia, because that's going to be the offense this year. What people need to prepare for is you're going to have a lot more missed throws, some errant passes, and a lot more stalled drives. But you're going to see more. I hate the word ball control. Gosh, I hate the word ball control. But you're going to see a little bit more of it in Josh Heupel's system. You're going to see moving the ball more. And so you're still going to see Tennessee pretty much have control of games. But I don't think you're going to see consistent 60-point games this year. So I think what you just talked about is going to be the case, but I don't think it's going to be cause for panic, because I think the coaches are kind of prepared for that.
If they beat Virginia or any team by 20 and they're even close to time of possession, and this is a different looking football team, hey man, I don't care if you cover or not. It used to really get on my nerves when Tennessee would beat like a Texas El Paso by 40 points, and some people are upset that they didn't cover the spread of 43. Listen, if you can go out there and punish some teams with this offensive line, and you might be able to do that, and a running game that's going to have some electricity that it didn't have with Dylan Sampson 100% in the playbook, hey, you're not going to hear me rip them for beating Virginia 30-10 and controlling the game throughout. So that's a fantastic point. I like that a lot.